Hi there, I'm Dr. Sabrina Starling. I'm the business psychologist as well as the author of The 4-Week Vacation and the How to Hire the Best series. On today's show, we'll be talking about why your business needs you to take a 4-week vacation, plus how you can drop 80% of your clients and be more profitable. And the best part, I will also share with you how you can hire those people that you think you can't afford. You'll be surprised.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives. Hey, would you do me a quick favor? Send me a note, DM me on one of the 4 big social media outlets and tell us what platform you listen to us on. Is it Apple Podcasts? Is it Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart? Maybe it's one of the apps. Let us know which one and tell us one of your favorite episodes. If you do, I'm going to pick a winner and I'm going to give you a prize valued at around $1,500. So pretty decent. Let me know. You can do it on any of the social media outlets. And so let me ask you, what do you need to do to up-level your leadership? Now think about that for a moment. How about taking more time off? What? Has the man gone crazy? No, I haven't. What if you knew how to strategically take more time off from your business and it made your business stronger? Well, stay tuned because that's where we're going on today's show. I am your host, Dov Baron. I'm here to assist you tap into the one thing in your business that changes everything by transforming meaning into action. If you're curious to know more, go to dovbaron.com. That's DOVBARON.com. This episode of Leadership and Loyalty is brought to you in part by our other podcast, Curiosity Bites. Curiosity Bites is the answer to the question, how can we bring people together who completely disagree? This is exactly what your heart, your mind, your soul has been craving. It's your chance to sit in on some very real, sometimes intense and deeply meaningful conversations with some of the world's most interesting people. And including on that guest list are people who are neuroscientists, neurosurgeons, philosophers, physicists, quantum physicists, politicians. It's a pretty fabulous show. So simply go to dovbaron.com and find out how you can sign up for and sink your teeth into the delicious Curiosity Bites. You can also find both shows on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever it is that you tune into podcasts, as I said before. And remember, we always need your help in staying relevant. So please get over to wherever you tune in from and do us a favor, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. If you are a regular listener, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners. We are honored and grateful to be cited by Inc.com as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader. Again, thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. According to Alliance Global Assistance, 55%, wait for that, 55% of Americans do not use all their paid vacation time. Working crazy hours has become the American way. So maybe you're working your way up the corporate ladder and you're just fried. You've decided to step out on your own and maybe be an entrepreneur. And exciting as that is to do your own thing, you know, it's kind of scary because aside from what it takes to find a market for people who are crying out for what it is you offer, there's also the horror stories from your entrepreneurial friends who speak about working 100 hours a week for 51 and a half weeks a year. And the truth is, if you're already an entrepreneur, that may be exactly how you're living. It may seem like there are no other options, but what if there is? What if there's actually a way to work less, be more productive, more profitable, and, wait for it, more human for those that you love? Well, let's find out how you can do that today, because our guest is returning champion, Dr. Sabrina Starling. She is on a mission disrupting the traditional story of entrepreneurship. You know the story: grind it out, work long hours, sacrifice your health, and of course, your important relationships, all for your business. She believes that work should support life, not the other way around. She, along with her team at Tap the Potential, guide entrepreneurs in taking their lives back. The irony is, the more time you take off from your business, the stronger your business becomes. That is, if you do it strategically. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and help me to welcome author of the international bestseller, The 4-Week Vacation, the entrepreneur's ultimate guide to taking your life back from your business, returning champion, Dr. Sabrina Starling.
Oh, and the crowd goes wild. Thank you, Dom. I can totally hear it. You do such a great job of painting a picture there. I am so excited to talk about this. It's so important that we start taking our lives back, whether we are in the corporate world or we're entrepreneurs. It's part of our culture that we just work. And it's time to change that.
Well, as I said, I think it's become the American way to work like a dog, and it's almost like this badge of pride that, you know, to say to people, well, what do you do? Well, I'm busy. I'm very busy. But what are you doing? You know, and working all the crazy hours, does it really work? Is it really helping you? So that's where I want to start in the context of leadership, not just corporate leadership, but leadership development of individuals, of entrepreneurs, etc. What is the question we should be looking to answer that we're not? We're often asking the wrong questions. What would be the right question?
What are the most successful, effective people doing? And this fascinates me, because we have a belief that the more we work, somehow the better we become. And it makes us, we really identify ourselves as individuals through our work. So I have been studying over the last 2 years the state of entrepreneurship, and at Tap the Potential, we're putting out our annual report on the state of entrepreneurship. And one of the things that absolutely fascinates me is that, number one, 88% of entrepreneurs are experiencing symptoms of burnout. 88%. And those who are not experiencing symptoms of burnout, there were only 5% of the 200 entrepreneurs that we surveyed that were not experiencing significant symptoms of burnout.
I thought you were going to say 88% are suffering symptoms of burnout and 12% are liars.
But there were only 5% that had no symptoms of burnout. So, right. So 88% are at risk. Only 5% had no symptoms of burnout. And so I get really curious about those 5%. Like, what are they doing? And I don't think they're liars, by the way. I think they've figured this out. And so what's interesting to me is that we believe that we work more and more and we make our businesses better. But what we're actually becoming aware of is there's lots of psychological research that shows that, as we pass a certain number of hours per week of work, we become less effective. We make more mistakes, and mistakes require rework. We also are reducing our ability to think creatively. When we're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, we don't have our best ideas when we're sitting at our desks. No. It's when we are away from work where those bolt from the blue ideas will come. And so much of the workforce now are knowledge workers, and we are using our brains. And the way we've thought about work to this point has all been based on outdated notions from, farming years ago, agricultural industry and
And
factory
even the
work.
industrial age,
The
right?
industrial age, yeah. And that is not how we work anymore. It's not about producing a certain number of widgets. It's about delivering results.
Yes.
And we cannot be effective in delivering knowledge-based results when we're sitting there on a computer, grinding it out hour after hour.
Well, I think that what you're bringing up here is vitally important. Again, certainly true with entrepreneurs, but I think it's true in general with people just working, whether even in a job, even as a leader. This old idea, I mean, it's one of the things I talk to a lot of leaders about. I mean, you want people to come back to the office after the pandemic. Okay. But you were afraid that they wouldn't be productive at home. And what we know is that people are 23% more productive, but they're not working the hours you want. They're working the hours they want, which is they're working 10 o'clock at night till midnight. They're starting work at 11 in the morning. They put in 4 hours that are really solid, and then they take a break and they come back and do another 3 hours. And then they go back and do a bit in the night, and their lives are better. They're healthier. They've got better relationships with their families, and they're more valuable to you. And it's this key piece that I think you just brought up that is vital. And I got to tell you, absolutely put my hand up. I was incredibly guilty of this. I have a very good friend who called me out on it years ago and said, listen, because if he asked me, how do you define yourself? Not as a brand, but as a human. How do you define yourself as in the way you operate? And I said, the way I operate, I would say that I'm kind of I was first and foremost an artist. That was where I started my life. And I'm a philosopher. And he goes, how is your philosophy when you're exhausted? How is your creativity when you're exhausted? He goes, if you don't back off, you're not living your truth. And I was like, wow. It was so true. It was that, and I needed to say, okay, the sun is shining. I'm going for a walk. Have I got a lot to do? Absolutely. But if I go for a walk, and it doesn't have to be long, 10, 15 minutes, by the time I come back in, it's like all fresh again. Well, and so I really get what you're saying here. It's important.
So I want to ask you a question, Doug. Would you trade your life for your business?
Everybody does, but no.
No, right. So it's a crazy question because our immediate answer is, of course not. I wouldn't. Who would do that? That's crazy. But every single day we make micro choices to trade our lives for our businesses. And so when we decide we're going to stay up late to get a project done, we're sacrificing sleep. That has an impact on us. And we'll say to ourselves, it's just one night of sleep, no big deal. But we are what we consistently do.
Yes.
So if we consistently make that choice several times a week, now all of a sudden we're sacrificing a lot of sleep time, which has detrimental effects to our health.
Yep.
If we decide, you know what, I don't have time to exercise today. I have too much to do. I'll exercise tomorrow. No big deal one day. But if we do it repeatedly, it is a big deal because now we're sacrificing our health for our business. Or if we say, you know what, I'm going to work late. I'm going to skip the dinner with my family tonight. They'll be fine without me. No big deal. Well, now we're sacrificing our important relationships for our business. And so I really believe it is time that we own this as entrepreneurs and recognize we do not need to trade our lives for our businesses. We can put healthy boundaries in place. And every day that we make that choice, I'm going to leave work today at 5 o'clock, or I'm going to turn my phone off at 5 o'clock and I'm going to be fully unplugged from work and be present with my loved ones. That is an action that we're taking to reclaim our lives from our businesses.
But the philosophy in America, probably, I would certainly say in the last 30 years and maybe longer, has been you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's drilled into us. You got to make sacrifices. So you got to sacrifice time with the kids. You got to sacrifice time. If you're going to start your own business, you got to sacrifice your weekends. You got to sacrifice time with your partner. You got to sacrifice time with the kids, all the grandkids. You got to sacrifice your sleep. You got to, sacrifice is almost imbued into the idea of success, not just entrepreneurship, but success, period.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's worn like a badge of honor that
Yeah.
sacrifice these things and we've worked so hard. And, on the one hand, yes, when you start a business, it takes a lot of you because it's all you. You're doing that, but that's not sustainable
No.
to live that way. And I talk with entrepreneurs and business owners who have been grinding it out for 10, 20, 30 years. And think about the amount of lifetime that is lost when you are grinding it out. So at some point, the startup mentality no longer serves us and it's not sustainable. And our businesses have to grow up. And we have to, what I call, right our relationship with our business. So when we continue to sacrifice for the business, we're really developing a lot of codependency in our lives because we tell ourselves the business depends on us. If we're not there, things will fall apart. And just like what you said, you define yourself through what you do. So if it feels very uncomfortable to think about being away from the business for an extended period of time and not checking in, and that the business would be okay without you, and it makes you start to think, well, who am I if I'm not my business? That's a sign you're in a codependent relationship with your business.
Yeah.
And we teach people how to treat us. We teach the people in our businesses how to treat us. So we teach our clientele to constantly come to us rather than go to our team members. We teach our team members to filter their decisions through us. All of that creates this unhealthy codependency. So the moment we start putting these boundaries in place and say, you know what, I'm turning my phone off at 5:00. Everything will be okay till tomorrow. We're putting a boundary in place and we're starting to break that habit of codependency.
You and I had talked about this when you were on previously, and we talked about identity, right? And there's a lot of identity in leadership, in entrepreneurship, in quote success, and it is well, I'm the CEO of XYZ, or I'm I started ABC, or I'm, and that identity, not, oh, I'm a dad, or I'm a mom, or I'm a human, or, the identity is first and foremost in those status badges, right, that we hold on to. And, in many ways, Sabrina, I think that what you're challenging us to do is to look at our identities. And, as a fellow psychologist, that's a difficult thing to do for most people. Like, yeah, hold on a minute. You want me to question my identity? I don't think so. Bugger off. I'm not reading your book. Right. So, because, it's one of the things I say all the time to my friends who are authors. And, I'm an author, you're an author. I say to my friends all the time, how are you going to get the book into the hands of the people who need it? Because the people who will read your book don't need it. They already got it. They already go, you know what? I need to take more time off. And they probably just needed a little nudge, or they're already taking it off and it's a validation that they did the right thing. But the person working 100 hours, how do you get them to go, hold on a second, I'm going to put my identity to the side while I read this book?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it really comes down to thinking about what are we willing to sacrifice and how long are we willing to do it? So, I've talked to business owners who say, I don't need to take a 4-week vacation. I love what I do.
Yep.
I don't know what I would do with myself if I wasn't working. I enjoy going to work every day. That fills me up and that makes me happy. Well, that's great, except for what happens if you get COVID or you have an accident and you're out for an extended period of time because you had to have surgery and the business falls apart without you because you haven't done anything to set that business up where it can run without you. When you have a business that can run and grow without your daily involvement, now you're starting to create legacy, because your business creates livelihood, not just for you, but for your family, for your team members, and for their families. And so if you're saying, I'm happy working 100 hours a week, it's fun, and I don't believe you that all of 100 of those hours are fun. Maybe a fraction of them are. Sure. But if you're saying that, you're not thinking about, are you willing to sacrifice other people's livelihoods for you to continue working 100 hours a week? Because ultimately that's what you're doing.
So that brings us to the entrepreneurial argument to not taking time off. Aside from, I love what I do, which I think that a lot of entrepreneurs genuinely love what they do, but there's more to life than that, right? But the entrepreneurial argument is, I can't take time off because I can't afford the staff it would take. I can't afford to hire someone at that level, and I can't, without me, it would fall apart, but I can't replace me because that would be too expensive. And I just don't know how to do that. That's the classic argument.
It would be, let's just take that. It would be too expensive to replace me or to hire team members. Right. So if you're working 70 hours, 50 hours, however many hours a week you're working, if you are doing tasks that are valued at $50 to $100, even $1,000 an hour, you're not doing the $10,000 an hour activities. So those less valuable activities are crowding out your $10,000 an hour activities. So your $10,000 an hour activities are where you're working on the business. You're identifying who your top clients are that are responsible for the majority of the revenue in the business, the 20%, they're responsible for the 80%. You're not talking to them to find out what you could be doing to serve them better and further refining the sweet spot of the business. All of that is $10,000 an hour activity. If you're too busy answering the phone, responding to customer complaints, running to the mailbox, all of those are $10 an hour tasks. If you're doing those, you are not getting to your higher value activities. You're not creating an asset in your business. You've got a job, essentially. You don't have anything that's sellable because no one wants to buy a job that you have to work that many hours a week and probably make less than minimum wage. Because if you're working 100 hours a week, you're certainly not getting paid at the level that you should be. And so the other piece of it, though, is as soon as you let go of those $10 and $50 an hour tasks and you invest in hiring team members, you create opportunity for them to add value to the business. They will do things better than you do because they're not working 100 hours a week. And they're working on something very specific and focused, a role with a key result that they're responsible for delivering on, versus you, who's all over the place, running around doing all kinds of things in the business. And it creates that opportunity for you to move more and more to the 10 hours a week that you really love in your business. So when we say, I really love what I do, I don't want to stop. It's not that we love everything we do. We love a portion of what we get to do in our business. So when we get our businesses to the point that they can run without us, the coolest thing that happens is we get to choose what we do in the business and go do more of that and be better at it and add more value to that business.
So your logic is solid. It makes perfect sense. And it doesn't stop the emotional argument of, I can't afford it though. I agree with everything you're saying, Sabrina. It makes all perfect sense. But I'm at that place right now where I can't afford to hire. I agree. I need to hire. But I could probably hire a $10 an hour person to do some of the $10 an hours, but I can't hire the $50 an hour person to do the $50 an hour work if I'm supposed to do the $10,000 an hour. Talk to us about that person dealing with that, because that feels very real in that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's not about trying to do all of this all at once. It's about the small steps forward taken in a consistent direction that lead to big change over time. So if all you can do is hire somebody for $10 an hour to take some things off your plate, do it, because they're going to take some things off your plate and you can focus on higher value. Now you can do the $100 an hour activities. And then a couple months from now, you will be able to hire someone who can do some $50 an hour work for you. And you just gradually build from there. If you think about, okay, I'm going to free up 10 hours of my time this week by getting somebody who checks my email for me. I mean, that's like the most basic activity, but think about how much time, if you're doing your own email, think about how much time you're spending in email every day and every week, and you hire somebody who filters your emails for you. And so you free up 10 hours of your time, and then you start looking at, okay, I'm going to learn how to hire someone at a higher level. And I'm going to start thinking about how I'm going to systematize that role so they know exactly what they do. So if you put one system in place in your business per week over the course of the next year, a year from now, you will have 52 systems in your business that you don't have today. Mm-hmm. So when we systematize things, we take them out of our head. And the beautiful thing about taking things out of our head is it frees up mental space for bigger ideas, more creativity, better problem solving. So it doesn't have to just be about bringing on team members. It's that combination of learning how to hire great people and bringing them, and you can hire them at all different pay levels in your business.
Yes.
Bringing them on and then creating the systems. And if you're not like me, I'm not great at creating systems. I love the idea of systems. I can come up with all the systems we need to have in the business, but getting me to sit down and document them, I'm not so good at that. So I brought on somebody who documents our systems for us. But that wasn't my first hire. My first hire was a virtual assistant, but it's those small steps forward that when you take them in a consistent direction will lead to big change over time. So if you're that person who's working 70 to 100 hours a week, you think you can't afford anybody, all you can do is pay somebody $10 an hour, do it. It's your small step forward.
We're coming towards the end of the first part of the interview, and I want to get into more of the specific strategies of how to take 4 weeks off a year and what that actually might mean. But I want to just put in one more sort of pushback, which is, okay, so I'm going to hire somebody to come in and do the $10 an hour or even the $20 an hour, but I got to train them, which now is going to make me have more work because I've got to not only do what I normally do, but I now got to add on another 10 hours a week, training this person and then correcting them and micromanaging until they got the system down where I can walk away. So that might be, and I know because I have a client who I dealt with recently who's doing that, and she's like, I love him and he's great, but oh my God, I'm exhausted just trying to train him.
Yes. So the first thing I would say to that is start your not to do list. You can do this without having any team members because you're already doing so much and you're not getting it all done. So look at what you're not getting done and say, this is on my not to do list right now. It doesn't mean it's permanently off your list, but for right now, it's off your list because that's going to reduce your mental burden. And then look at what is it that you're consistently procrastinating on and it's not getting done anyway. Put that on your not to do list. So you're starting to free up mental space. And then as you start training this person on the most basic tasks, they are taking things off your plate. Reclaim that time and use it to think through what's the next thing that I need to train them on. Whenever you go to hire someone, think about one result that you want them to deliver if they can't get anything else done for you in a given day or a given week. What is the one result that you need for them to deliver? And then focus what you train them on around that. One of the reasons we get bogged down in training and it feels like it takes forever is because we try to train people to do all kinds of different things.
Yes.
And then think through, okay, this person is highly successful a month from now in this role, and they're delivering this one result. What are they going to be doing that will make them successful? And that gives you your training plan. So if you're just like a teacher and you teach to the test, come up with a test, which is they're great. They're blowing you out of the water after a month in what they're doing. What do they need to know to be doing that? And it has to be one result. It can't be that they're doing 20 different things for you, but it's one result that they're delivering that's having a big impact for you, and teach to the test.
That's a great place for us to end part one, because I think that entrepreneurs hiring, or leaders oftentimes just hiring somebody to do something, it becomes vague. And when it becomes vague, it becomes vast. Vague equals vast, and it's impossible to measure the results. Yes. So vague equals vast, which means immeasurable. You cannot create a metrics for it. So it's like, I think they're doing a pretty good job, but they're doing a really crappy job over here. And I spend so much. Hold on. What you just said is perfect, which is what's the test to know that they're doing it really well? And what's the one result that I want from them? Because that could be changed, likely trained fairly quickly. And then getting it down for them will be fairly quickly. They'll feel a level of accomplishment. You'll feel a level of ease. And then you can together say, okay, what's next? Yeah. It's great input. Thank you, Sabrina. We're gonna close up part one, come back to part two. I always want to make sure that people know where they can find out more about you, about your new best-selling book, and about I know you offer an amazing amount of services. Please tell people where they can find out more about you and all the wonderful things that you do.
You can learn more about me at tapthepotential.com, and my book, 4-Week Vacation, is 4weekvacation.com.
Okay, great. We'll make sure we post those links, of course, in the show notes. You'll find them if you go look in there. And we'll make sure that those there, plus all the social media links and all the other ways that you can reach out to Dr. Sabrina. And we're going to be back in one click. Till then, stay curious, my friends. Stay curious about how more time off might make you more productive, more profitable, and more human. Stay tuned. We'll be back in one click.